Hey everyone, and welcome to the video about the actual layout plan. So the majority of this video is just going to be me talking through this image of what my layout plan currently is. Obviously, once we get into construction, it's a highly probable event that things will change as we go through and start to play with space and other items. So I'm gonna first say that the software I used to design this layout was XTrackCAD. It's a free program, and I've played with some of the other programs. I'm sure that AnyRail is probably better. I just haven't ponied up to pay for it, and then there's the learning curve where I'm decent with this. I'm not great, but I'm decent, and this definitely has some limitations, especially if you're using pre-made turnouts. They're really difficult to sort of override and customize. So, but it's what I know, and it allowed me to kind of get what I need to get done. So I'm going to start in the upper left corner and work my way down the left side and around the layout. So in the upper right corner, there's really not much other than a curve. I believe this curve is 24-inch radius. Between that and the buildings, the big blue boxes here that you see like all the tracks in, those are Walther's sort of railroad yard buildings. But behind that, I was thinking about maybe a yard office and some parking, maybe a transformer or a small substation, anything that like a large facility would require power and such. Plus I just didn't want to have to try to reach back there for anything major, so that's why I kind of figured it could be scenic. And then again, as we move down, we've got the large blue square here is actually the railroad shops, but it's doubled. Those kits allow for expansion by buying two, and you can put them together. So that is two railroad shops together to make one larger building, and then the square next to it is the modern diesel house building by Walther's. The transfer table is the original non-DCC transfer table with an extension. I actually have two of them with two extensions, so I could make a really giant transfer table if I wanted to. But because it's non-DCC, I'm going to try to power the whole thing with Arduino and Bluetooth and trying to make it as cool as the DCC one without spending $400, and they don't make it anymore, so I got to find it on eBay or at a show or something like that. So I figured I would give this a try. Worst case scenario is it's simply powered and can move back and forth with, no smarts to it, but I'm really hoping to make it cool. The switch in the back behind the transfer table, that is I believe that's probably the only number 8 on the layout. Yeah, it's a Walther's. So just to make note, all the switches here are Walther's. I think there's a couple of turnouts somewhere, a couple of crossovers on the layout, and I think only one of them is an Atlas. So it's a number 8 turnout, and that kind of goes into, I guess it kind of could be a arrival departure track, but it can also just be a passing siding off the main. So that's where I originally was thinking of it. And then I think the next switch down is a number 6, and then there's a number 6 double slip, and then the rest of the switches in the yard are number 5s with a couple of curved turnouts, and the Y that's by the car shop is a number 2.5 Walther's Y. So that's really kind of what makes up the yard itself. It's mainly just a lot of straight track. The car shop, which is the other long blue box, that is 2 car shops put together. So instead of expanding widthwise, the car shop actually expands lengthwise. So I thought that'd be an interesting thing, because you pretty much see, I mean, I hate using kits that are used by everyone, but the Walthers kits are pretty straightforward to build. I am not a scratch builder by any means. I'm not good at kit bashing either. I've only just gotten back into the hobby after a 30-year, 25-year lull. So maybe in time I'll be better at coming up with my own stuff, but for right now I figured if I can at least do the expansions of them, then they will be slightly more unique than the other ones. Plus I plan on doing as much interior and lighting as possible to make that up. So then the small gray box in front of the transfer table towards the front of the layout, that is the diesel, that's the fueling rack by Walthers. The only thing I don't have in here, and I don't know about space, is a sanding tower. And I would like to put a large sort of fuel tank, which there's a small curved spur down after the Y here, and that it's got a 36-inch radius, but there's kind of space on either side that could be a fuel, like a large diesel fuel tank, and maybe we could do like a small unloading rack for a tanker car to deliver fuel to the facility. Down in the bottom right corner is a spur. I actually forgot it even existed there. I'm not sure what I'm going to put on it for an industry, if anything. Maybe I take it out. I don't know. It's going to be really difficult to reach. The only reason I actually kept it there was because this black box at the bottom is actually a closet door that I'm going to remove. But if I want to be able to reach that, I'm not going to be able to put a backdrop up there in that space, or at least not as tall as the backdrops everywhere else. So that's a kind of an unknown for me. It will be difficult to reach otherwise, especially to unhook a car. Unless I put in like magnetic uncouplers under the rails. So yeah, that's a big unknown. And then as we move down towards the bottom of the layout here, there is a 2-track spur. Originally I was going to make it an intermodal, but it's really tiny. And personally I would love in future layout number 2 to have more space and to build a really big intermodal yard, you know, like with warehouse facilities and, you know, the scales and the guardhouse and all the stuff that comes with it, and not just some super compressed version. So I don't know what that's going to be. I have no idea. I could potentially move the ready mix plant down there, switch it to a single spur, and maybe bump out the layout by 6 inches just there for some scenery. I do work for a logistics platform that is kind of like the Uber for dump trucks, and so we deal a lot with quarries and asphalt and stuff like that. So I really would like to try to figure out some way to get all that in there, and you know, like, because it relates to my day job. As we move around, there's another spur. These are 2 number 5s that allow the trains to switch in here. I put a bakery I'm not 100% sold that that's where that'll go. There's obviously plenty of space on the peninsula. I was thinking about the Magic Pan Bakery to go somewhere there. And I'm not 100% convinced I'm going to do a swing bridge. My carpentry skills are less than perfect, and I feel like swing bridges require accuracy that I may or may not have. If it did, it would swing into the open space towards the town. Then as we move up to the peninsula, I've got two sort of spurs on the top. One is for a building supply company, and one is for a lumber mill. I actually might switch the building supply to the other, to the bottom side, so at least when you pull out of the lumber mill, you gotta take those cars all the way around the layout one time to deliver them to the building supply, and they're not on the same branch. I had originally designed this to be a sort of over-under on the peninsula, and the only way to get industries on that space was really to kind of do turnouts on on grade. And when I first shared it to Facebook, people gave me a lot of feedback about the difficulties of that. So I just decided not to really kind of push with that. Down on the bottom part of the peninsula is I had a more complicated quote unquote time saver area. I've simplified it. Those are number 4s. I'm imagining that this is an older part of town. I do want to build sort of a classic Main Street-ish area in the center. So that's why building supplies and bakery could move around if I need more space. And as we move up, you see the small little like stream/river there. That's above that is the lumber mill. I have all the Walther's lumber, everything that they made. But I want to figure out maybe some way to mix in some Pike stuff, kits to kind of look like the mill has been modernized a little bit. Yeah, and I may figure out some way to push the mainline back a little bit more to give myself a little bit more space. But this is it. Since this is a modern mill, the lumber no longer gets the logs no longer get dumped in a pond. They are delivered by truck, and so the only thing being exported by rail would be the final product. So, but I have the Walther's mill. I have the planing shed. Excuse me. I have the big yellow log loading crane, and all the outbuilding accessory pieces. So I want to try to figure out how much I can fit in there. I suppose I could use a little bit of space on the behind the lumber mill as well, though I may do a little bit of a hill there to kind of allow some space for the down to staging. As we move up to the top of the layout, I've crammed 3 sort of industries in here. One is the scrap metal, one is the propane dealer, and one is the ready mix plant. And I've already said I might move ready mix down to the bottom. Not sure there's enough room for the propane dealer. However, I did just see a post on Facebook in one of the HO groups about how from Google Maps there was a prototype of a propane dealer who literally had enough space for 1 car. So maybe that is enough. As for the scrap metal, it depends on what kind of building I want to put in there and if there's space for that. So, you know, I know that Walthers has got the Washington salvage yard and a bunch of other equipment. I'd like to have the equipment, but I do feel like there needs to be a building of some sorts. So we'll see. Again, the room's kind of tiny, so I got to work with what I got. But yeah, there's always wiggle room to move stuff around here, especially with the peninsula and that whole area that I really haven't dealt with. I could turn the building supplies into the scrap metal area, move the building supplies down, move the bakery up to the other small siding up right above it. Yeah, and I guess if I could, you know, maybe one of those sidings up above is, you know, kind of abandoned. I'm not 100% sure. The other thing I haven't really done much planning for is the staging. All I did was put a branch off and hope that I can figure out how to get down in enough grade. My trains aren't going to be very big, so I'm not worried about too many cars getting up a really steep grade, but I do want to make sure that I can get down and at least have 2 loops that they can do a reverse loop on that. Yeah, because at least if I had a reverse loop, I could run the train. Yeah, I can at least run it around a couple of times, or whatever. Except there's no other reverse loop, so it's not sure I can get it back to the way I want, unless I figured out some way behind the bakery to get down there as well. But I don't want to make it too complicated under there, because there's not going to be a lot of like wiggle room between the top of the surface of the layout and the staging. Obviously, I'll try to give it as much space as possible, but I'm not gonna, you know, it's not like I'm gonna have 36 inches or 24 inches of wiggle room to work with. So that's the layout. Would love to get your feedback. Again, these are all working designs. You know, it's enough to get me started, and again, I've started building the top left 8 feet going down that sidewall, because at the top of the room above scrap metal propane dealer and ready mix, I've got windows that need to be reglazed and painted before I can build this out. And then down on the bottom left, about where the 2 to 3 foot mark is where there's a window that also needs to be done. So that needs to be done before I can really build it out. But I mean, I could always dive into the lumberyard area construction and the bench work around the peninsula and the rest of the room, as long as I've got an easy way to get in and out of the room to do those windows and have space to like sort of get them in and out, because they are a beast to take apart, those old school wooden windows. So anyways, that's it. Be sure to like the video, leave a comment, tell your friends, share it, all that jazz, subscribe, click the bell, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Thanks.